everyone, and welcome to another edition of Webbing the Surf, brought to you by Customer Bloom, who can grow your business faster, and brought to you from Vita Cowork again. Today I got Alex Patetsky in the house. Super excited to have this guy on the show. We just bumped into each other at a coffee shop in Sayulita, and in our industry, you're like a legend.
I am?
The founder of thehoth.com.
I'll take it. I don't know if I'm a legend.
Let's start with that.
Okay.
First question, did you make that logo with a guy?
Kind of. So Hoth stands for hit him over the head. Huh. And yeah, it kind of just came to me like it needs to be a guy that looks kind of like Gossamer, like this big caveman looking monster type thing. And
I love it.
Yeah. But yeah, now like NextNet Media, who owns the Hoth, they've taken it far. They have like a whole like mascot outfit, and like they chase people down the street with it, so it's pretty cool. Yeah,
I love to see when people take like, oh, it's an SEO company, right? But then they have this like caveman logo thing that's totally brandable that you'll never forget it once you see it.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that we were in a space that was like painfully boring. I mean, maybe with the exception of some people thinking that it's cool, but some people in the industry think that it's cool, but I knew that it was a super boring space, and like that was a way that it could be like relevant but still have character and personality. So when we have t-shirts and stuff and we give them away at a conference, people come back the next year and they'd be like, my kid wears your shirt to school every day. Right? Like people in suits, they probably are not going to wear our like cartoon monster guy. Honestly, I wore that shirt to nightclubs and people would be like, Angry Birds, and I'm like, whatever, that's fine. That's fine too, you know, but like it had enough personality that people like took our like SEO SaaS company and they were like, they felt like they could interact with it. They felt like it was personal enough. So yeah. Cool.
So you're a true digital nomad. Was it the Hoth that launched your ability to be anywhere you want?
Kind of.
How did you get geographically liberated, as I like to say?
Yeah. I think I started quote unquote nomading, which I don't do as much now as I did before. But I think I started it before like digital nomad was like a fully fledged term, you know?
Yeah.
I read 4 Hour Workweek when I was like 19 or 20, and so like I had that idea in my head. The Hoth was built from the ground up to be a location dependent company, you know, like one of our like
location dependent or
independent company. Like one of our like recruiting taglines was like, want to work from home in your underwear and make internet money. Like that was like, you know, that's basically,
that's the digital nomad dream, right?
Yeah. And by the way, if you do like working in your underwear, I'm telling you that's a limited time proposition, because at a certain point you feel like a zoo animal and you're not going to want to do that anymore. So anyway, yeah, I did that for a while. February 2013, a few months before we sold the Hoth, I went down to Medellin, Colombia with like 5 guys, kind of like a quote unquote hacker house, very big quotes. And yeah, we just hung out there for like a month, and it was cool. And then we sold the company, and I was like, okay, well, I'm ready to be out of Chicago. I was 26 at the time, and I got out. I went back to Colombia, lived in New York for a while, which kind of is now as much of a home base as a place can be. And yeah, I lived in a bunch of places since then. But yeah, it kind of basically selling the company kicked it off. Mm-hmm. But now, actually Clayton, who was the COO and now is kind of the head of the Hoth, he now lives there permanently, semi-permanently, in Medellin, Colombia.
Oh, no way.
So basically, if I would have thought to do it earlier, I probably could have done it earlier too. It's just like, for whatever reason, I felt like I had to be in Chicago until we sold the company. But yeah, that basically was.
Did you come out of the Hoth sale like all papered up, like I'm gonna go on 6 months not doing anything mode?
I took about 6 months off, yeah.
Nice.
And then I started like, I did some speaking, just like hanging out with people, like mentoring, whatever. And then I started like messing around with new projects.
When we were having coffee the other day, you said something that I loved, because I feel the same way, which is funny, that I work for an agency that sells SEO, but I hate SEO.
I hate SEO. I don't feel bad saying that. I think SEO,
Why do you hate it? Because I think we have the same.
Yeah.
But
you know, like SEO to me is like, it's like plumbing. It's important, but it's not fun to do. It smells like shit. That's like the best way I can put it. Okay, so here's the thing with it. I professionally am like a product guy. I like creating things and giving them to people, and then people get to use them. And then I see how they use them, and then we improve them. We get people's feedback, blah, 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 iterate. But the problem with SEO is you're building it on this landscape that's controlled by one company. And literally every single press release that they put out, it can be like quicksand, you know,
Totally.
for your company. And so instead of focusing on like, hey, we built this solution for you guys, and we're making it better, and we're iterating, and we're listening to your feedback, and blah, blah, blah. And honestly, like the guys at the Hawk have done have done a good job at doing this and developing other types of SEO products and whatnot. But essentially, instead of like selling people on our product and why it's getting better and why they should choose us, I found that a lot of what we were doing was we had to keep selling people on the entire endeavor of SEO. You know what I mean? Like Nike doesn't have to keep reselling people on running. People run, so then it's just a matter of you know, selling them a better shoe or a cooler shoe or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but literally we had to sell people, keep reselling people on the entire proposition of what we were doing, and you don't have that in like other.
No, I agree.
You know, now
I like what you said about the changing landscape, because that's what I hate about it, is you're selling something that at the end of the day you can't control. Like,
right.
And you can say like, we know this works, and maybe it does, and it'll work for a certain time period, but at any given time, like you said, an algorithm can hit and that doesn't work anymore.
SEO is also no longer a business model. It's a to me it's like frosting on a cake. And it can be a lot of frosting, like for sure. Don't get me wrong, you can make a ton of money
totally.
off SEO.
Yeah.
But if your entire payroll depends on SEO traffic, I mean, damn, I feel bad for you.
I just feel like
because it can just go away. It's happened to a lot of companies. A lot of companies have just nosedived. Like
totally.
There are a bunch of coupon sites. I remember a few years back that like after some of the algorithm changes, they went out, and those are companies that had a bunch of employees, and they were just counting on ranking for like certain like branded terms, and then poof, like evaporated like that. So I think it's a good like third, fourth, fifth layer on the cake, should not be the foundation of the cake though.
Yeah, no, I just feel like so many businesses who come and they're like, we want SEO, we want to rank better because that's going to change everything. It's like if you would just put that money into making your product better.
Yeah.
Like word of mouth comes, and it's so much more powerful if you can just create a great product.
Well, and the other thing with SEO, what a lot of people do that don't have that product savvy, is they're like, well, let's just get more traffic. And they use that as like blinders to not look at how bad they are
at not converting
that traffic, right? If you're paying for your traffic, you don't have a choice. It's like you have to, like, you know, like, okay, these landing pages suck. They don't convert. We pay more for them than, I'm sure someone listening to this is like, well, depending on the traffic. I get it. I understand the nuances, but generally speaking, like when you're paying for the traffic, you know exactly which landing pages convert, which offers work, which offers don't, and you start to have like a real kind of tangible sense of ROI, and you have to improve the product. Like the product has to convert. If it doesn't convert, you go out of business. But the good thing is with PPC, like that's a stable platform, more or less. I mean, dramatically more so than SEO.
Yeah, it's Google's bread and butter.
Yeah, so it's awesome, right? So if you can essentially build a base off of like PR and you know, and PPC and Facebook ads and email marketing and whatever else you're doing, and like, you know, life cycle marketing. And then on top of that, like once you're kind of steady, and then you have some free cash flow or you get an investment, for sure, hire that SEO agency. Like right now, we haven't mentioned it, but
this is a good transition. So you went from building and running an SEO SaaS company. Would you call it a SaaS company?
Yeah, it was a SaaS company. We had like the same way that. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. It was definitely a technology-powered company.
Right.
It had a SaaS component. and then we also had like actual producers on the back end.
So you went from doing that to now you're the CEO of a DJ equipment, hard good product e-commerce business.
Yeah. So in 2010, I started 2 companies: the DJ Hookup and the Hoth.
They started at the same time.
Yeah, and basically, I didn't understand the economics of e-commerce. I didn't realize that when you have to put your money in inventory, it doesn't come back around to pay you for quite a while. So the way things are just unfolded, the Hoth basically became my full-time gig. I walked away from the DJ Hookup for a while, and then this year I rejoined the company as CEO. That's something that happened.
And what is it? The DJHookup.com?
The DJ Hookup, we sell DJ production, studio pro audio equipment.
Is that the URL? I want to make sure you get a plug.
The DJHookup.com. You can also go to DJHookup.com. It is not a dating website for DJs, but even if you think so, I encourage you to come there. That's cool with me.
No pun intended.
Yeah, run with that. Write some articles about how we just started a new dating website for DJs. No, we've been around for 6 years. I don't have the exact number, but we're probably currently in the top 10 DJ Pro audio dealers in the United States, and we're looking to build that Zappos of e-commerce. Going back to my previous point, that's an industry where I know that people want that product, and it's really just a matter of iterating and giving to them in a better way. Constantly improving that experience, which that's a much more interesting problem for me to solve than be like, oh, you guys want to quit DJing? No, don't do that. That's a terrible idea. I don't want to do that.
So I think this kind of segues into, we like to talk about tools, what are the tools you use every day to be able to do what you do? Let's start off with platform. Is your e-com built on Shopify or something?
Built on Magento. I don't know that I recommend Magento.
Yeah.
At the time, the rationale was that it was the largest open source cart. I knew that I liked working with WordPress, so I just kind of, from that kind of logic, I was like, well, this should be the easiest, most flexible to work with. I don't know if that's necessarily ended up being true, but honestly, with e-commerce, what I've noticed is there's good companies built on pretty much every platform, Shopify, BigCommerce, Volusion, whatever. There's a million of them, and generally the underlying cart is not what makes or breaks the company. For sure, it's going to affect long-term development costs and certain processes and whatever. But at the end of the day, if you want to play for keeps and you want to treat an e-commerce company as a product company where the product is that e-commerce experience, the whole experience, through the time that they actually get the box in their house and open it and have that feeling of what it's like to get it. If you want to treat it as a kind of product company, you're gonna have to invest in development any which way,
Totally.
So maybe for your first little bit, you get a theme out of the box. It works.
That's one thing I will say about Magento is, I know from past experience, hiring Magento devs is the priciest as far as WordPress, Shopify, WooCommerce. Those are really specialized guys, and they definitely charge more.
Yeah, it's a big piece of software. But it's not as expensive as if you're using what's the Rails one? Whatever. But I mean, Rails is more expensive than PHP. Period. So whatever.
What else do you use? What do you layer on top?
Well, so you asked about that. I think Live Chat Inc. Not just any old Live Chat, but specifically Live Chat Inc. I think they're a really awesome company.
That's interesting.
It's a company out of Poland. I used to be a fan of Olark. I think Live Chat made a better product.
I'm super into Intercom right now. Have you checked them out at all?
Yeah, I don't think Intercom does. I think Intercom is good at bringing a lot of things together. I don't think Intercom does chat that well. Live Chat makes people feel like they're having a Facebook chat with you, but they're on your website. And specifically for the DJ Hookup, part of how we deliver that part of how we deliver that super personalized experience, especially because people are buying hundreds of dollars worth of gear, is we have that chat there, and we'll spend 45 minutes with people, you know. So it's not just like, it's not like one of those chat things where you wait for an operator for 5 minutes and they show up and then, you know, like they don't.
Let's give a shout out to Olark, because I love them too.
Olark, yeah, it's a cool company.
I feel like they need to innovate a little bit more now.
They have some cool features. I don't know, and it's who I used for a long time, and then...
They're fully remote, by the way, so people looking for remote jobs to become a nomad, they're a fully remote team.
Right on, yeah. What other tools do I use, do I believe in? For project management, we use Asana. You know, not too fancy, Google Apps. Man, what can I tell you? There's not too much like super crazy stuff going on there. So I also have a consulting company called Transformative Economics, which is basically I work with like post-traction startups, generally speaking, to help them improve their conversion funnels and like the conversion on their website, in their app, retention, all those kinds of like key conversion inflection points where basically either you're keeping a customer, retaining equity, retaining value, or losing it. And you know, a good, powerful tool. It has some hiccups. I think is Opt-in Monster. You know, just for collecting those emails and building out that funnel. It's a great tool.
In your nomading history, people watching this thinking about the next, you know, where they want to go next.
Yeah.
What have you thought of Mexico, and what's been like the best spot that you've hit?
In Mexico or in the world?
Well, what do you think of Mexico?
Okay, so I am super pro Mexico. I feel almost like a shill saying that. I'm super pro Mexico. You know, I grew up in Chicago, which is the third largest Mexican community in the United States. But when so I lived in Mexico City for 4.5 months, and when I first came to Mexico City, I had this realization. I'm like, I don't know anything about Mexico. I don't even know what a Mexican is, right? Because all of a sudden, like, people look different and everything, like, and I mean, it felt some places felt like LA, and it was just like, and I was like, oh, I get LA now. I get the architecture in LA, like, it came from here, right? Man, I'm super pro Mexico. I feel like I end up evangelizing Mexico to Mexicans in the States a lot of times, especially in LA. There's a lot of Mexicans in LA that have never been here, like they were born there.
Yeah.
And they're like, man, isn't it scary? And I'm like, no.
You're like, dude, you need to check out your homeland.
Yeah.
Because it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm super pro Mexico. I think the culture here is one that's very hardworking, very pro problem solving. And I'm not going to call any places out, but unlike a lot of other places, I do find that the culture here is much more, you know, like ready to get down to work and show up and like and get stuff done essentially. But New York is still a special place. Obviously, that's why it's so expensive. That's why so many people want to live there.
You can tell you've embraced it. When we first met, I thought for sure you were an East Coaster.
Yeah,
no, I grew up in New York,
in the Midwest. But yeah, people say that. In LA, people definitely. So I spend the winters now kind of, at least the last 2 winters I spent them in Los Angeles, and definitely there people are like, you're not from here.
One last thing I want to ask you, because I think you're a guy that's pretty plugged in to like the marketing and nomad world. Are there any communities you would recommend people jump in on?
The only like community that I'm a part of is Nomad List.
Okay.
I would say I'm like a bad member. I only use it like when I need something. And sometimes if I'll be on there and I'll like just, you know, people ask questions and I'll offer some advice and whatever. That's the main one I use. I think they've built like a really good tool, like the website. I don't use the forums. I'm specifically in the
Slack group,
the Slack community. That's really the only one that I use. And honestly, I think I was just having this conversation with someone earlier today, someone that's part of Remote Year, which is both a community and like a year-long trip. I think one of the real dangers of this kind of modern era of like, oh, we can be location independent, is now people are doing it. But I think there's going to come a time that just like with food, you know, like there was a time where you couldn't eat strawberries all year round, right? Like you couldn't, your access to food was limited, right? And then we got way better at agriculture. And then like, now we just take it for granted. I can eat whatever I want any time of year, right? So that now people are much more like concerned about like their diet, right? They're actually thinking like, what am I going to choose not to eat, right?
Right.
And I think we're going to see a lot of that with people's like travel habits and their attitudes about relationships and how they're affected by travel a lot, because for sure there's a price paid by just being this transient thing. I think that like remote year, I haven't done it. I think it's a cool idea.
I think we're gonna film them tomorrow, hopefully.
Yeah. So I think like what they're doing is cool because they're building this community, but for the people, for the locals and all these places that they're visiting, you know, all of those people, that group of 75 people, or in my case it was like usually traveling alone, you're this kind of like transient person, and it's very hard for people to like get invested in you and build that like deep kind of friendship when they're like, oh, you'll be gone in 2.5 months, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. I have asked a couple of people, are you going to nomad forever? And it's so kind of new. They're like...
What I think is some people are going to develop, like what I do, I think there's a certain like romanticism to the word nomad, but I think what a lot more people are going to do is they're going to develop like circuits that work for them. Mm-hmm. So like for me, it's like New York when it's warm, anywhere else when it's not. It's been the West Coast, but like I'm thinking next year it might be Puerto Rico or something like that.
Yeah.
But you know, it's kind of, or like, yeah, something like that, you know, like more or less like a circuit or like a migration pattern that makes sense for people.
Which is so interesting when you think about the traditional lifestyle of like make money, buy a house. Like people that want a circuit like that, like me, like I nomaded to Mexico, but I'm pretty much here all year and I go back to Philly twice a year. Do I want to buy a house here or buy a house there? Maybe not, because it's easier to just rent and hop around. But it'll be interesting in 10 years, like all these digital nomads, do they return to where they're from to settle down and raise kids, or do they live abroad somewhere that they find they really like, or do they just keep nomading?
I do think a lot of people, you know, I think you're going to see every flavor of that. I think that's really what you're going to see. Like, you know, there's people who are like crazy carnivores, they eat barbecue every day. There's people who are like vegetarians, and then there's people that are somewhere in the middle. Yeah. I think you're going to see that with travel. I think you're going to, like my good friend Clayton Johnson, shout out, Hoff, thelhoff.com. He's the guy there. But you know, he just picked up and moved to Colombia. Like he's not someone that moved around a lot. That lived, like he visited once. Like we went with that group that I told you about in the beginning, and then he liked it, chose to move down there. Parked, you know. For myself, like I had much more of like a gypsy kind of like identity in my head, and like I felt like I need to move around a lot more, and then you know New York is just a place that kept calling me back. Yeah. So now I've like developed this pattern, you know. And then there's a lot of other people who, you know, like they do it for a long time. Like I know people that go like Chiang Mai, Budapest.
Yeah. No, there's a full-on circuit through Asia.
Yeah. There is definitely a circuit, but I do think
trying to get in that circuit with Vita Cowork, Sayulita Cowork.
But I do think over time the romanticism of like moving for moving's sake, of like, oh, there's a piece of the world that I haven't seen, so I have to go there. I think maybe this is my own bias, but I think that like romanticism wears off. For me, it was definitely a choice. Like I knew, like with the Hoff, when we were building it when I was 24, like I knew I didn't want a physical office, and I knew that I wanted to build a company that could function without people being in a brick and mortar space. Yeah. You know? And again, like you shouldn't vilify like location.
Sure, no.
Because you might want to be in a business where you do need someone to be local, and you don't want them to feel like a piece of shit because they decided to stick around and you decided to move.
No, and I think that's a good segue to wrap this up. And basically the motto of this is work the web so you can enjoy the surf, whatever your surf may be.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my deal, is like I set myself up to be able to hear and surf for most of the year and go home whenever I want.
Yeah.
So, Alex, thanks so much for being on the show, man.
Cool, man. Thanks for having
I definitely look forward to keeping in touch, and I hope you light it up on the salsa floor tonight.
I'll do my best. I'll try to make you guys proud.
All right, awesome. We're going to sign off. We'll see you next time.